Hello, dreamers. I'm your host, Marco of Dreaming in Fashion. Welcome to another week of this podcast where we discuss all things fashion. Let's start the show. First up on my list is Millennial Arab designers. According to Vogue Arabia, Millennial Arabian designers are at the forefront of sustainability. Now, the slow fashion movement took inspiration from the slow food movement. Now, I like what they're doing here. They're basically taking something and making it a trend of their own, which is great. So at last year's 2019 Grammy Awards, Cardi B turned heads in her bejeweled Mugler catsuit with sparkling pair of Poise design pumps. Now, the founder was a Lebanese footwear brand, Emma Boutros. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of her. If you have, I'm sure you have. She's taken sustainability approach by repurposing indigenous fabric to make shoes. Now, remember that now. Indigenous fabric and repurposing it to make shoes. Remember that, okay? In my next topic. I want you guys to remember that. Now, the Arabian millennials want the work that they are doing to impact the world. They feel they need to do something for society to make the world a better place, and that reflects something positive. Now, they're saying that now that they account for a bigger part of the consumer market and companies, and they say that companies will have to adopt their products to this new purchasing power, making luxury and sustainable one and the same. I agree. I agree. That's all I'm going to say. Now, I'm going to move on to my next topic because it ties into this, and then I'll give my overall commentary of the two. Now, next up, according to L'Official, Kanye West is making shoes of algae, right? So, the Yeezy foam runners came from an unconventional plant-based material, seeds. Remember I mentioned that earlier, right? This is sustainable initiative will contribute to the protection of waterways and thus the peoples and animals who use them, and prevent the release of fossil fuels that happens in traditional production of foam intended sports shoes. Now, I own a pair of foam shoes. I actually bought 3 pair from Puma because of the foam. These shoes feel like I'm walking on clouds. They feel amazing. So I get it. Hey, I get it. I'm here for the foam. I'm really here for it. Now, Kanye is planning to relocate his production label to Wyoming, where his headquarters would be on a farm. Okay, Kanye. Now, West has also said that he's looking for alternatives for harmful dyes, and that some of his shoes are produced here in Atlanta instead of low-wage countries. I think that's a great idea. Hey, but hopefully he's not paying these workers low wages, because that's not a good idea. And I maybe need to do a little snooping here in Atlanta and see where this factory is gonna be whenever Kanye brings it to town, because I would love to see like how that process works and how they're making these shoes out of plant-based materials. Now, I saw the shoes online. I think that they're really, really dope. They look very, very futuristic, and I think that's the way that we should be heading towards in this time frame right now. What's going on with the world, with global warming, factories exploding, people paying people low wages and different things like that. We'll talk about that in my next topic. But before we do, we're going to talk about Knockaround. So Knockaround is your source of great shades that won't break the bank. Their lineup of unisex sunglasses offer a wide range of good-looking, timeless styles in a ton of different color combinations, from bright and bold to subtle and classy. Designed for pretty much any face size and shape. And best of all, it won't cost you an arm and a leg to protect your eyes. Their shades start at just $10, with polarized sunglasses starting at $15. They also offer a limited edition collaboration and an interactive design your own custom shop. You get a free shipping on orders over $50 and free returns if you don't love them. So stop spending a fortune on sunglasses. Follow the link in the show notes below Let Knock Around know we sent you. It gets you 20% off your first order and helps support our show. Now, we're going to get back to the show here, my topics. So, we're going to talk about the brand that you girls all love. I know that you love it. I see you on Instagram rocking it. I see you all on Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media platforms rocking it and saying, yes, I'm in my Fashion Nova. Yes, that's it, Fashion Nova. Fashion Nova. But after I read this to you guys, maybe you guys may reconsider ordering from Fashion Nova and all these fast fashion brands. So, Fashion Nova, according to Wikipedia, it was founded in 2006 by its CEO, Richard Saigan. I'll spell that for you guys so you can go and research his name yourself. His last name is spelled Saghian. So he worked in a retail industry, working with his father in his father's clothing boutique located in Los Angeles, and it opened its first location in Panorama City, Los Angeles, inside the Panorama Mall, selling inexpensive club wear attire. Now, according to the new report from New York for the New York Times, which city's U.S. Department of Labor investigation conducted from 2016 through this year, meaning 2019, at least some of the 13-year-old Fashion Nova's Buzz's offerings are coming out of factories that are flagrantly run afoul of U.S. labor laws. So, to be exact, the Times asserts that Fashion Nova's clothing is being made in dozens of factories in LA that owe $3.8 million in back wages to hundreds of workers, with some allegedly paying their stores as little as $2.77 an hour. And that's according to the Fashion Law website. Now, could you believe that? Now, I worked at this place when I was in LA for a short spell of time, a mini story time here, where I worked for this upcoming person. She was trying to start a clothing brand. She was knocking off other other people's stuff like Nene Leakes and different things like celebrities and different things she saw them wear. She wanted me to knock it off. And she was only paying $10 an hour. Even with all of my degrees and my skill set and qualification, I felt so uncomfortable at that job when I was there. I ended up leaving because I thought that if you wanted me to knock off somebody else's design, you need to be paying me a tip-top dollar to be in here knocking off somebody else's design and not being original. And it wasn't my proudest moments, but that just goes to show how these people who want to play fashion, as I say, who really don't really care about the industry and what they're doing. They just kind of want to be fast fashion, Speaking of fast fashion, let's talk about ethical fashion. According to Passion Lily, simply put, ethical fashion is fashion made ethically. Treating workers fairly and minimizing your impact on the environment, meaning your clothing is eco-friendly and people-friendly. So, just my whole take on all the other things I mentioned with the Arabian designers, Kanye West, this slow fashion movement. I think that it's time, guys. I'm personally sick of the H&M's, the Forever 21. Look at the Forever 21. It's going bankrupt. Well, they were going bankrupt, but they're closing some of their stores. But they're constantly being sued. I know that you guys are tired of this cheap clothing that never lasts. Once you watch it one time, it shrinks up. I know you've experienced it. I experienced it. Even though sometimes I'll pay a little bit more money for something that I buy from those stores and thinking that, it's going to be better quality, blah, blah, blah. It never lasts long, So I'm looking forward to this slow fashion movement, and I want to see where it goes. Now, speaking of fashion, we're going to jump into a different genre here, or a different sector of fashion. Let's talk about fashion magazines. Are they dying out? In the world of social media, people aren't buying magazines and newspaper publications like they used to. I remember a time when I was in college we won't go back too far back then, but when I graduated in college, 2007, 2008, around that time, I was buying a lot of fashion magazines. I was using it as a source of inspiration, and I love the pictures and the images, and I would use it. You know, I would cut out the images and cut my magazines up and kind of put them and paste them in like either like poster board, mat board, folder, just as my little inspiration book. And, you know, always keep that. But, you know, I think that those times are going away with social media, with Tumblr, Pinterest, and all the other social media girls, Instagram. You know how it goes. It's a big list. I think that they're going away. I think they're going to become obsolete here pretty soon, you know, if they're not already obsolete. Because I went into a magazine store recently and tried to buy magazines, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't find anything that I was really, really inspired by. And they're expensive too. Some of those magazines are $24 and $30 a magazine. I think that's expensive for a magazine, especially for someone like me. When it comes to magazines, I like to destroy them, but not destroy them in a bad way. Destroy them and cut them up and like I said, stick my images for inspiration and use them in my sketch pads and sketchbooks and different things like that. So, with social media and different things like that, I don't think that it's really necessary. I think everything is pretty much digital now. So I could be wrong. You know, jump down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts is. So guys, that is my show for the particular this week's podcast. So remember that to listen to this podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. Please make sure that you guys are commenting and subscribing and rating this podcast wherever you listen to it at. And until next time, keep dreaming. Peace.